Morning.
Morning.
Well, I'm Glenn Roof, and I guess months ago, Christine Hansen approached me and said, would you be able to make a chalice? And she had some pictures from the congregation that she had visited. And before I even had an opportunity to say, yes, I'd love to have the challenge and make the chalice, I already had this strike of inspiration. I knew I had the right piece of wood that was destined to become, what's behind me here today. 12 years ago, when I bought my table saw off of eBay, I went to pick it up and went to a cabinet maker shop, and the owner of the shop said, would you like some remnants? I've done big projects, and I've got these pieces that I can't use for anything else. Absolutely, I'd love some free wood. I'm not going to turn that down. But when he started pulling out what he had, it was all these cracked pieces, really small pieces that weren't worth anything. And then he pulled this other one out. He kind of looked at it, and there was a definite moment of pause. I remember it very clearly. And he threw it on top of the pile. And that piece of wood is now what became the chalice. But again, it had problems. There was sapwood along the outside edge. Sapwood is where, what's most closest to the edge of the tree, and it has a different color to it. It's very light. In the case of rosewood, which I believe that this is, it had a crack running pretty much the entire length of the board. This is what was hanging off because of the crack. So, because of all these obstacles and challenges, I really had a hard time finding something, a project that I could put it towards. So for 12 years, I moved it, when we moved from one house to the next. I was told, why are you holding on to that? It's too small for a jewelry box, it's not big enough for, what have you. But when I was asked, can you make this chalice? It's like, wow, okay, that's the piece. And all those obstacles I had, that split where, this piece, the rest of the wood was up here, that split is now the organic curved line. That piece of sapwood, I carved that off the outside edge, and my wife Fran inspired me. She said, well, why don't you book match it? Absolutely. You take this blonde wood that's out on the outside edge of the board, resaw it in half, and then take the wood and go like that with it. Glue it back together. So there's a seam running down the middle of the flame, but that piece of sapwood is now at the heart of our flame. So the wood started out about that wide and about that tall, and there's about 95% used. This is one piece of scrap here, not much else. But the amazing thing is I didn't want more, didn't need more, and all the obstacles became, inherent to, what became the chalice. It's very cool. So that's the story behind the wood. The outside rings actually were harder because I did not have that aha moment of, well, this piece of wood jumping out at me and saying, pick me, pick me. I had to be more creative and come up with something. I thought about bamboo, I thought about steel rings from like an old wine barrel, which weren't big enough. What could, have the right presence but not overwhelming. And I don't know how the inspiration of a steel bar came up, but this is actually a steel bar. And I went in the garage, grabbed a short piece of just regular round bar, and took it in the backyard with a sledgehammer. Found the biggest rock that I could and started beating on it. What I ended up with was a broken rock. And a piece of bar that looked like it had been dragged behind your car for about 10 miles. So it wasn't quite the look that I was going for. But the inspiration was there, the vision was there. Went on Google, hammered steel bar. A place right here in Plainfield that makes ironwork for fences came up, and they had what I had envisioned before when I grabbed that bar and wanted to hammer. So I went to Plainfield and you buy a 10-foot length, and it had all the hammered look to it and everything. And then each one of those rings started out as a 10-foot long straight bar. I made a plywood form and clamped the bar and just muscled it around. And, lots of bending with brute force and like a pinch point that I could use to bend it a little bit more, and welded the ends together, welded the two rings together, welded little standoffs on the back so that it's standing away from the wall a little bit. And but really, it's amazing how everything's kind of come together. And it was like I was the vehicle, but the wood had its purpose, it had its destiny. I was glad to be a part of it. the finish on the wood is a boiled linseed oil. And then on top of that is many coats of